Welcome to The Explainer. So, today we're exploring a mind that literally shook the foundations of the 19th century world. And honestly, his legacy is probably even more vital today. If you're feeling overwhelmed by, the constant noise, the anxiety, the endless distractions of our modern age, well, you need a mental reset. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're diving deep into the philosophy of one of India's greatest spiritual leaders. We're going to get these powerful concepts and Swami Vivekananda quotes explained in English, translating them into a totally actionable antidote to our 21st century chaos. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We're starting with his explosive Chicago awakening, then conquering the illusion of fear, redefining true education, looking at equality and social justice, and wrapping up with how to actually take action today.
All right, Section 1, the Chicago Awakening and the 1893 Parliament of Religions. Let's set the scene, all right? It's Chicago, 1893, the world's Parliament of Religions. Just imagine it. A relatively unknown 30-year-old monk from India steps up to the podium in front of thousands of delegates. He starts with just 5 simple words: "Sisters and Brothers of America." And the crowd, they absolutely erupt into a 2-minute standing ovation before he even finishes his opening thought. Why? Because in a room that was so often divided by rigid doctrines, he stood up and preached universal acceptance. He argued that sectarianism, bigotry, and fanaticism have literally drenched the earth in blood and destroyed whole civilizations. He wasn't there to prove his faith was the best. No, he was there to show that they were all just different paths up the exact same mountain.
And this brilliantly illustrates his point. He shared this story that I just find incredibly brilliant. He talked about a frog that lived its entire life in a small well, fully convinced that its tiny little well was the entire universe. He said, "I am a Hindu. I am sitting in my own little well and thinking that the whole world is my little well." The Christian sits in his little well and thinks the whole world is his well. It's such a powerful metaphor for human stubbornness, isn't it? We mistakenly think our limited worldview is the absolute truth, completely missing the vast, shared ocean of human experience that's sitting right outside our walls.
Moving on to Section 2, Conquering the Illusion of Fear, or the Inner Battle.
So if the first step is breaking down those mental walls we just talked about, the second step is fighting the internal battles that keep us paralyzed. His words on fear are intensely stark. Listen to this. Fear is death. Fear is sin. Fear is hell. Fear is unrighteousness. Fear is wrong life. Wow, he really didn't mince words, did he? Today we're facing a literal epidemic of anxiety, and Vivekananda's philosophy directly attacks this. He believed that fear is the ultimate superstition. It's the root cause of the world's misery. When we fear failure, or when we fear society's judgment, we paralyze our own souls. Freedom, he argued, only really begins when fear ends.
Building right on that, he took the traditional concept of sin and flipped it completely on its head. He said, the greatest sin is to think yourself weak. Just let that sink in for a second. To Vivekananda, weakness is nothing but a mental illusion. He taught that every single human being is a divine soul, a spirit that's pure and immortal. He basically urged his listeners to come up like lions and shake off the delusion that they're sheep. If you want to build unshakable resilience, you absolutely have to stop handing your power over to external circumstances and start recognizing the immense, immortal strength already sitting right inside you.
Okay, Section 3, Redefining True Education, focusing on the mind and character.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how his wisdom feels like it was written specifically for our age of the internet and endless doom scrolling. Education is the manifestation of the perfection already in man. It completely changes the dynamic of learning, right? We usually think of education as pouring water into an empty vessel, just cramming our heads with external data. But Vivekananda rejected that entirely. He believed that knowledge already exists within us. The role of education isn't to force facts into your brain. It's to chip away the ignorance so your inner wisdom can actually manifest. Until the inner teacher opens up, all that outside teaching, completely in vain.
Ask yourself right now, are you just memorizing useless facts, or are you actively building your character? Vivekananda warned that education without character is actually dangerous. He said, and I love this, if I had to do my education over again, I would not study facts at all. I would develop the power of concentration and detachment, and then with a perfect instrument, I could collect facts at will. Think about that in today's world of massive information overload. A scattered mind is totally useless no matter how much data you cram into it.
He famously said that the concentrated mind is like a lamp that shows us every single corner of the soul. Meditation and concentration are the gatekeepers to unlocking this power. He compared a focused person to an oyster that catches a single raindrop and then dives deep, right to the bottom of the ocean, to patiently develop it into a pearl. When your mind is focused, when it's detached from all those distractions and firmly under your control, it becomes the absolute ultimate tool for navigating life.
So how do we actually focus the mind? Well, I found his breakdown of its 3 states incredibly helpful. He categorized these based on ancient philosophy. First, you have tamas. This is a state of darkness, ignorance, and inaction, typically found in those who only act to injure. Then there's rajas, a highly active state, but it's driven entirely by motives of power, enjoyment, and ruling over others. But the ultimate goal? The goal is to elevate ourselves to sattva. That is the state of absolute serenity, calmness, and clarity. And getting to sattva requires mastering your own impulses.
All right, Section 4, Equality and Social Justice, looking at the social fabric.
So once you actually conquer your own mind, how do you interact with the world around you? Let's look at his incredibly progressive views. For a guy speaking back in the 19th century, his stance on gender equality was radical and totally uncompromising. He famously declared, "There is no chance for the welfare of the world unless the condition of women is improved." He was furious, literally furious, that society had shackled women, degenerating them into what he called mere child-producing machines. He firmly believed that a bird cannot fly on one wing. A nation just cannot possibly progress if half its population is subjugated.
And his argument wasn't just social, it was deeply spiritual. Because the soul, the Atman, is entirely beyond gender, caste, or class, spiritual laws dictate absolute equality. He frequently pointed back to ancient history, recognizing women like Gargi and Maitreyi as supreme spiritual leaders and scholars. Because of this, he violently rejected the blind social customs of his time, things like child marriage and oppressive restrictions on widows. He viewed them as man-made distortions that severely weakened society, not divine laws.
So the crucial point here is that for Vivekananda, spirituality was never about just escaping into a cave. It was all about action. Who serves Jiva serves God indeed. Now Jiva means the living being. He felt this massive urge to break down the barriers of don't-touchism in society. He actually wanted to overthrow ceremonial worship entirely if it meant people were ignoring the starving, the poor, and the downtrodden. Serving humanity was, to him, the absolute highest form of worship. Period.
And honestly, this is a direct challenge to how we define success today. We're constantly taught to climb the corporate ladder, accumulate wealth, protect our own interests. But Vivekananda says, "They alone live who live for others. The rest are more dead than alive." The easiest way to make ourselves happy, he noted, is simply to see that others are happy. Self-centered ambition is a complete dead end. True vitality, that comes from sacrificing for the welfare of humanity.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, Taking Action Today, the call to action.
So how do we actually apply all of this right now? Well, he had a very specific message for the youth, and really anyone looking to achieve true success. If you're constantly scattered, trying to do 50 different things at once, listen closely to this quote. Take up one idea. Make that one idea your life. Think of it. Dream of it. Live on that idea. Now, this requires a terrifying amount of sheer willpower, but it is the perfect ultimate antidote to our endlessly distracted modern lives, where we take a little nibble here and a nibble there, but never actually master anything.
He broke this intense focus down into a pretty brutal but very simple 3-step formula. Step 1, take up one idea. Step 2, let every single part of you, your brain, your muscles, your nerves, be completely full of it. And step 3, which is definitely the hardest part, leave every other idea alone. If you can become literally mad with a single purposeful idea, eliminating all other distractions and committing entirely, you will achieve mastery. No doubt about it.
And hey, when the path gets difficult, or when you start to doubt yourself, return to his most iconic, rousing call to action. Arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. You have to stop making excuses. Stop blaming fate. He said it's the coward and the fool who says this is fate, but the strong person stands up and says, I will make my fate. All the power you could possibly need is already right there within you. You just have to wake up to it.
We've covered a ton of ground today,
from breaking down the walls of our little wells to conquering fear, redefining our education, and stepping up to our duty to society. But I want to leave you with this one thought. Swami Vivekananda believed in you before you even knew to believe in yourself. So look inward, find that immense power, and ask yourself right now, what is the one idea you will make your life?